So picture the setting, a 10th floor apartment, busy city outside. But there, high above the noise, you get the sense of isolation, comforting almost. You feel enclosed, secure. You look down, and the city lights are just these shimmering pinpricks, like tiny fires flickering, scattered across this dark canvas below. It was an entirely routine evening. She'd just gotten home from work. The usual sequence played out, dropping the heavy bag by the door, kicking off her shoes, then heading straight for the kitchen to pour a well-deserved glass of wine. The reason for what happened next was utterly mundane. She just wanted to update her online profile picture, that's all. So she sets the stage. She positions her smartphone carefully, propping it up against a mug on the counter. Near the large balcony window, the geometry was intentional. She leaned in near the glass, trying to angle her reflection just right, to capture the city's energy, those glittering lights as the backdrop. The camera clicked. A simple, quiet moment. Digital vanity, maybe? But when she picked up the phone, still leaning there slightly near the window, and reviewed the single image she'd just taken, that sense of quiet routine just evaporated. Instantly. Her heart didn't just skip. It felt like it dropped into a sudden cold vacuum. Well, it was an anomaly that was impossible to mistake for, say, common digital distortion. It wasn't motion blur. It wasn't a light flare from outside. And it definitely wasn't the reflection of something in her room. Behind her own reflection in the photo, a second face was clearly visible, a woman's face. She describes it in the narrative with chilling precision, pale, utterly expressionless, and perfectly aligned, staring directly into the camera lens from right over her shoulder. And the terrifying fact was she was completely, unequivocally alone in that apartment, 10 stories up. The mind immediately tries to rationalize, doesn't it? It cycles through these desperate explanations. Could the glass have acted like some kind of bizarre lens, catching something from a distant building? Or maybe a reflection from a bright apartment across the way that somehow landed perfectly in frame? But, the 10th floor. It's generally considered immune from those kinds of close proximity optical tricks. She needed proof, one way or the other. So she stayed at her hand, used 2 fingers to zoom right in, deep into the image on her screen. And this act, this magnification, was what drove that wedge of dread straight into her certainty. The clarity was damning. The face was absolutely not an external reflection playing tricks. Because of the angle, the subtle distortion, it was geometrically placed on her side of the glass barrier, positioned right where a physical person would have to stand if they were leaning in, right behind her shoulder. The implication was, horrific. That moment of hesitation is, perhaps, the most human part of the whole account. She didn't just whirl around. There was this frozen pause, a sudden physical resistance against acknowledging the impossible reality the phone was showing her. The narrative actually describes her realizing, chillingly, that she was trying to calculate how fast she could run. If she turned and actually saw something standing there. When she finally did turn, it was slow, hesitant, almost agonizing. She turned her head towards the dark glass, the city lights reflecting normally now. And she saw exactly what logic dictated. Nothing, just her own reflection and the dark night beyond the pane. But despite seeing nothing, her skin was prickling. Her breathing felt shallow. The photo on her screen had left this tangible residue of fear, a silent, irrefutable warning. She knew she couldn't just dismiss it then. Seeing the empty room wasn't enough. She had to investigate the perimeter, especially that balcony door. So she grabbed her phone again, turned on its flashlight, the bright beam cutting through the dim room, and she forced herself to take those few, very long steps toward the glass of the balcony entrance. The light beam hit the glass, right where the face had appeared in the photo, and that's when she saw it. Undeniable, chilling physical evidence. Evidence that transitioned this story from maybe a weird photo glitch or something paranormal to a confirmed physical breach. It wasn't just like a dirty window streak. It was a smudge, positioned precisely where the other woman's face had been captured. The narrative is specific. It looked like the distinct impression of someone's forehead and cheek, pressed firmly against the glass. And crucially, the residue looked fresh, almost moist, as if someone had been standing right there just moments before, looking in at her. Her immediate reaction was just pure nauseating dread. She was meticulous about security. She lived alone. Her routine included always keeping that balcony door locked. Always. But as she gripped the handle, felt the latch, she realized the lock wasn't engaged. The latch itself was twisted open. And the door, it was pushed inward just slightly. A tiny gap, maybe a quarter of an inch, enough for air to exchange between inside and out. And this detail, this unlocked door, suddenly cast a terrifying new light on something she'd dismissed earlier. She remembered seeing the curtains move slightly when she first came home, just a flicker. Something she'd instantly blamed on the air conditioning kicking in, or maybe a draft under the door. Now, though, that memory shifted. It became potential evidence of transit, a person moving through that small gap, disturbing the air before she'd even taken the photo or noticed the reflection. The fear wasn't hypothetical anymore. It was an active threat, possibly still nearby. So she grabbed the nearest thing that could be a weapon, a kitchen knife from the block, and she cautiously peered through the small gap in the balcony door, scanning the little outdoor space. All she could hear was the faint, rhythmic hum of the city air from below. The balcony itself appeared completely empty. It was something subtle, a violation of the usual order. It was the furniture. She had this small outdoor chair, right, typically placed well away from the edge. She used it for morning coffee sometimes. It was no longer in its usual spot, beside the railing. It had been moved, deliberately. It was pushed directly beneath the balcony edge, like right up against it. This arrangement strongly suggested the chair wasn't used for sitting, but for elevation and aid, either for getting onto the balcony or, more likely, given the sequence, for making a quick and quiet exit back down. To confirm how someone got there or left, she was forced to lean closer, right out to the edge of the metal railing. She ran her hand along the cool metal, but on the outside surface, and there she saw it. The final, conclusive piece of physical evidence. Faint, dark marks on the outside of the railing. Handprints. This confirmed the impossible and the terrifying efficiency of the intruder. Someone had successfully climbed 10 floors high, up the sheer side of the building to reach her unit. So the story then shifts. The next morning, the focus moves from her subjective terror. An immediate, frantic investigation started, centered on the security cameras positioned around the tower. They needed to see if this impossible climb had actually been documented. And it had. The footage provided a chilling, factual record of what happened. It showed motion detected on the side of the building at 10:43 p.m. That's just moments before she had taken that profile picture inside. It captured a person, a dark silhouette, moving strangely, notably barefoot, and wearing dark, unremarkable clothing. The climber was seen ascending from the balcony immediately below hers, on the 9th floor, scaling that short distance up to her 10th floor unit. Then they paused, pressed themselves against her window glass, and then, almost immediately, unnervingly, began their descent, back down to the unit below and eventually moving out of the camera's range altogether. The climber never lingered, never tried to enter the apartment fully, it seems. They simply came to the window, observed, and left. And here's the element of the footage that really cemented the sheer unreadable strangeness of the whole event. While the camera tracked the movement, the figure climbing, it never managed to capture a clear image of the person's face. The climb was too quick, maybe, the lighting too poor from that angle, the only clear, identifiable image retrieved from their entire sequence, before the climber vanished back into the dark, was a single frame. It captured a lone hand, pressing against her window, a captured handprint confirming the physical violation just before that swift, silent descent.